Welcome back, everybody, or should I say ho, 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 and welcome to the Pro Football Newsroom Christmas Spectacular. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, do we got a big one. It's not just me. You'll notice Zachy Boy's not to my right, but I'm coming with the newsroom crew. I got insider James Larsen. I got my boy Lane, the pickle McRib over here. Luke Miller, Stallion's God, if you will, and Jake Ball from the. Thank you for putting it in the description. The Panthers shadow.
Help.
I was going to say USFL shadow or within the shadow, or I'm sure there's another one in the mix as well. I guess we'll start things out. how's everybody doing today?
Doing well. Happy to be here.
I'm currently regretting I have that exact same sweater that you have on, Santa, but Stallion's version, and I don't know why I didn't think to wear that. That was a huge missed opportunity.
What are you thinking? You're probably going to get a big piece of coal in your stocking this year for that one.
Yeah, well,
Luke, you have time to go change. I mean,
all right, I'll be right back.
Started.
There you go.
Back. Nobody leave the stream just because I leave the screen for a couple seconds.
No, and we're going to leave your empty camera on there as a reminder. I could easily turn it off, but I'm not gonna. But Jamesy boy, Jamesy, MZP Larsen, how are you doing today?
We're here. We're ready to go. We're fired up. It's Christmas. Oh, I mean, it's not Christmas, but it's our Christmas spectacular. Christmas is just a few days away. It's a busy time of the year, and it's just fitting that spring football is just blowing up around the holidays. I mean, what's new, right?
Exactly. Lane, my man, Pickle McRib.
Yeah.
Break it down for us.
Holiday times, getting ready for Christmas, having to deal with all the USFL on the side, and then making sure, we just got everything under wraps that we can.
Sign you up. All right, Jake, my man, how are you feeling in this Christmas season with all the unknown, with the spring football nonsense?
Glad that it's Friday. Like you said, the 24/7 news cycle this week, the ups and downs, the expectations, the disappointments. Just glad to have a little bit of reprieve before the holidays. But otherwise, we got Brilliant Speaks signed for 2024. So, waiting to see if we get Ginda. But other than that, I don't know if I could do much better. Get Perry back instead of the Jags, but
we'll have to see. At least you have the rights to him if he ends up leaving the Jags, so that, things could work out in that favor. People watching the stream here, you might notice there's one fella who's not on here, Mr. Community Legend Ducky. He's gonna be here. He's got some engagements to take care of, but that's not going to stop us. Let's take a look at the chat here real quick, just because I want to try out some of these new features, ref's favorite features. We got chat stuff going on now. McCraft, Merry Christmas. Sign you up as well. And you know what? I think we're going to use this next chat here to kind of kick off our discussion. Julian Smith, I'm really upset about this league having 8 instead of 10 or 12 teams. Now, I'm going to kick things off first before we get into it because, I've been down this road. Speculation zone. Nothing is official until it's announced from the league. Now, I will say it feels pretty official. It feels pretty official considering the fact, James, some of the things that you reported this week coming straight from the unions. Maybe you want to talk on that. Break it down. Where are we at right now? What does it look like team-wise? 16, 12, 10. Is it the 8 teams? What are the 8 locations? And maybe we can get into what the teams are, and then we'll round table this out.
Yeah, so obviously everyone's a little bit disappointed with the news that, we've seen it coming for a while now, just based on some of the reports that came out towards the end of November that the leagues were aiming for 8. And now here we are, where the USFLPA, they told their players, the 4 USFL teams that are in it, which is the Birmingham Stallions, the Memphis Showboats, the Michigan Panthers, and then, of course, the Houston Gamblers, which we'll get to the Houston part later because there's a whole other to-do with that. But then on the XFL side, the players were also informed about the 4 teams that were going to be in it, which is the Arlington Renegades, San Antonio Brahmas, the DC Defenders, and the St. Louis Battlehawks. So, given that we're looking at an 8-team scenario here, those are the 8 teams that are in it. And there's so much to break down because we're going to see a lot of coaches leaving. We're going to see a lot of staff leaving. And sadly, we're going to see a lot of players without jobs. A lot of guys that are so much talent between both these leagues. And all of a sudden, we're going down from 16 to 8. So, given that these reports do end up being the final product, which it seems extremely likely that it is, we're looking at a much different scenario here in 2024.
So let me kick it over to you, Lane. You're kind of the guy here. You have a team, but I don't know if you're located in a city that has a team. So this probably impacts you a little bit less than, let's say, unfortunately, Ducky's not here, but a Maulers fan who is, planning on going Maul in 2024. But as an outsider's perspective of having a team, not having a team in your city already, does it impact the way that you're going to watch this league or enjoy the league in 2024?
I would say no. I mean, for the people that do know me, I live in Wisconsin. It's kind of, I'd have to go to Detroit if I wanted to see any Michigan games, but I'm actually a Stallions fan, for those that don't know. To me, it's all about just the quality of football that we see on TV. I mean, for just a casual, just viewing experience, I would say that's the biggest part that I care about. I just want to see quality football on the field, and as long as I have that, I can live with a lot of the other stuff.
Ducky heard me say his name. We have him live now in the 2023 Christmas Spectacular. Ducky, if the rumors are true, the Pittsburgh Maulers and potentially the Canton Hub may be no more. Now, we'll speculate on the championship a little bit later, but as of right now, how does that have you feeling? If do you have another team lined up? What are you working on here?
No team lined up right now. Just rooting for all the Maulers wherever they go.
Well, let me tell you this. I got some news for you. 2024 Gamblers are going all in 12-0, baby, or the Houston Roughnecks. We're either going all in or we're roughing them up. So you better get on board before you look like a bandwagon fan. Not that that's ever bothered you before, but I'm just saying. So let's move over to Lukey boy. Lukey, what are your thoughts on this whole merger? The teams coming in. What are your thoughts on the Stallions' chances next year with
Luke's
some
about
maybe
to go off, man.
new
Luke's about to let it
competition?
all out. I can see it in his chest. He's about to let all his thoughts out right now.
No, I won't give all my thoughts away in the first 5 minutes of the show, but I think I'm sympathetic to the expressed feelings of the comment of the viewer that I think back when we first got the news that this merger was a possibility, I think it was hard to imagine for anyone that the end result would be 8 teams. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe other people saw this coming, but I think it was like surely 10 at the minimum, right? But I think we all hoped for maybe 12 felt realistic, and 16 I think felt idealistic, but it was kind of what I think everybody wanted. So I think having to kind of swallow the pill the last couple months that it's only going to be 8 teams and that half the players are going to be sort of out of work and coaching staffs and all that, half the cities that previously either had a team or were looking forward to having a team in their city eventually, no longer have that. I mean, that's it's hard to get excited about that. I mean, I get the side of it that some people have said, hey, this is just what has to happen for the long-term sustainability of the league. And maybe that's true. But even if that is true, that still sucks. So I think the 8 teams, and I mean, the team that I support and follow and, go to their games is going to be in it. So like that softens the blow for me. But even still, given that fact, I think it's a tough pill to swallow to say, hey, we're going to have a merger. But on the other side, we're essentially losing an entire league when you sort of do the math, right? 8 plus 8 equals 8, apparently.
Right.
So tough pill to swallow.
So before I get to you, Luke, I want to get your take on this comment from our fan here, Ducky. So we have Elijah Neal in the chat, says, Merry Christmas, gang, and a censored word, the XFL division, USFL run this S. Ducky, is this your burner account? I gotta get that out of the way before we move on to Jake, because I saw that browsing through.
I don't attach any affiliation to this me whatsoever.
All right, Jake. Again, you get to keep your team, Michigan Panthers. They got into the playoffs last year. Things were looking good. Earlier this week, it was kind of a roller coaster. You got EJ Perry. You lost EJ Perry. What are your thoughts on kind of all the merger news and everything? And what are your thoughts on the next season coming up?
I mean, going to kind of repeat a lot of what Luke said. Just it's disappointing to see, go split from, 16-8. Was really loving the idea of having 86 games going back down to 43. Presumably, we still see the 10-week season, but I don't know. I'm optimistic. Like I said, I got my team. That was my biggest pain point, waiting to see if we're actually going to get Ford Field. Once they did that, I think it was a pretty foregone conclusion that the Panthers were going to be in. So I've been, pretty stress-free as far as that's concerned. So, I have my team. So 2024, whether we go 0-10 or 12-0, sorry, gamblers ain't it, then, I'll be happy. I get my, front row or right up there, midfield next year, so I'm happy.
Don't let me remind everybody about Ref's Law. Ref's Law, I mean, is not dead with the new league. Ref's Law is not dead. It was broken. The new league.
No, we broke it.
We will see. Give us
What about Santa's Law though?
Yes. Well, Santa's Law is 12-0 all in.
Oh,
because the gamblers are all good boys. No coal in our stockings. I'll tell you that much.
Santa's Law would have kept all 16 teams.
That would be the dream. It is really unfortunate. And we're here. We're kind of dwelling on the year, a roller coaster of a year. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it felt like things were on the up and up for both leagues. And when we heard that they were merging together, when I initially heard, okay, you're going to go from 16 teams to 12 teams, I wasn't too hurt by that. I said, look, if it's going to make the biggest spring football league that we've seen since the original USFL, sign it up. Are some people going to lose out on some positions? Yes, but ultimately in the long term, it felt like that would have helped create something more sustainable that they could build upon. And maybe it does become a 16-team league further down the road. Moving down to 8, it feels like it changes the perceptions going into things just a little bit. To me, I think that this can be successful. I think this is a time, if you were an XFL fan that hated the USFL and a USFL fan that hated the XFL, this is time to unify. I love spring football. I know Ducky's shaking your head down there, but hear me out here. I love spring football. And if us having to come together and love one big, beautiful league, one BBL, which I actually learned what it meant the other day, which it did not mean what I thought it meant.
You were making that joke the entire time and didn't know what it actually meant?
I thought it meant big, beautiful ladies, and I guess it means something else.
No way, bro.
Anyway, I think it makes the joke a little bit funnier now, though. Boomer Ref in the house, sign us up. But again, I think it's all down to now we're kind of restarting the process again of the crawl, walk, run. You're going to be in your 8 locations next year. Hopefully we'll see if we can get to 10 teams the year after, and I'll even stretch it out to 2 years after. Okay, fine. We have some sustainability, but man, oh man, it is kind of hard to find the bright side of this sometimes. And that's coming from me. That's coming from the ref who loves all these things. But at the end of the day, I'm still going to support this. And that's why I ask everybody, support it as well. Keep the rivalry, though. I think there should be a divisional rivalry. I kind of like
I was about to comment on that because I think it's really neat that we are going to see USFL and XFL divisions, because this entire past year and a half, we've had everybody debating over, the XFL is better talent, the USFL is better talent. The Renegades, they would wipe the Stallions or et cetera. The Showboats, they would stand no chance against the Brahmas. I don't know. There's all these different rivalries that now we can actually be like, all right, let's put it to the test. Let's see which conference. I can't even call them leagues anymore, but they're still conferences. They will be conferences in the new league. So I think it'll be really neat to see how that all plays out. And I really, really hope that we open up the season with the Renegades against the Stallions, because that would just be the 2 champion teams. Obviously they might not have all the pieces. Alex Magoo, I don't think he'll be back in Birmingham, as long as he sticks in the NFL. But it'll be really interesting to see that dynamic play out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing the Gamblers beat everybody. So it really doesn't matter who we play. I just know it's going to end with a W.
If you thought the Gambler shtick was dying with the merger, it's not. It's still here.
And I hate to break it to you guys, if somehow it is the Roughnecks, I mean, we're just going to rough them up. The stick will go on, and I will have a funeral for the Gamblers. It will be done. Just let it be known. So, this is an interesting one here. Let me throw this up on the screen. 212 filmmaking. Do we know what the rules of the new league? Do we know what the new rules are? Essentially, we don't know what the rules are, but I'm curious because they're similar for the most part. But there are some differences when we get to the extra points, to the kickoff. I think is the big one. Me personally, the one that is optimistic as I am about spring football, the one that I will die on a hill for is the 1 foot rule. We cannot have that. It should be 2 feet to be an inbound catch, right? This 1 foot rule isn't going to do you any favors when it comes to film and getting into the NFL. But I'm curious, what are the rules? What are your die on the hill rules that either need to stay or go that you would argue for here? I'll start with you, James. Just go around the clock.
How about you start with someone else on this one? I've been starting
All right.
everyone.
All right, Lane, how about you, buddy?
Well, I mean, my original one was going to be the 1 foot rule, but I think the biggest one that we're seeing from everyone else is the USFL versus the XFL kickoff. Personally, I very much like the USFL kickoff. I feel like it fits the world of spring football a little better. It makes it a little more exciting. It gives returners an actual chance at making big plays. And then Ducky's nemesis starting at the 50-yard line is always a great callback every. I really would like to see the new league continue the USFL kickoff versus the XFL kickoff. Feels a little more, while not really traditional, it just, I feel like it fits spring football better. And if we're gonna have the XFL kickoff, we should just go with no kickoffs. That's my personal take on it.
How about you, Jake? You live and dying on any of these rule changes, or you're fine with whatever they come up with?
I mean, I guess I'm not so torn on the kickoff, but like I watched it in the ELF, they had the similar to the XFL, so I kind of got used to it. But no, the hill I'll die on is the PATs. I like the USFL's PAT system better. You have the regular kick for 1, then you have the 2 and 5 or 2 and 3, point conversion attempts. I don't like XFL getting rid of the PAT. Haven't liked it since 2020. Still don't like it this past year. So yeah, let's get the USFL's kick PAT.
Good. I'm glad somebody brought that up because I wasn't sure if it would. I feel like that kicking position sometimes gets lost in in everything. And that one's an important. I have a soft place in my heart for kickers. I'm a Lions fan. For most of my life, the top star has been a kicker. Right. So how about you, Luke? What living and dying? What are the rules that have to stay? What are the rules that got to go or impartial?
Yeah, I think throughout this merger discussion, that has definitely been at times a point of contention. Some people have felt really strongly about keeping certain rules or getting rid of other rules. Personally, for me, that's never something that I've really worried about too much. I feel like there's other hills I'd rather die on than kind of going with certain rules. I mean, I think the way I've kind of seen it is it kind of depends on what your motivation for the league is in some ways. I mean, the XFL rules, for example, like the different PAT structure, as well as, the kickoff, they're, I think, more innovative relative to what the NFL does. So if you want to kind of try and be an incubator for rules and try out these new rules and different kind of things and see how they work, and maybe the NFL adopts them, then that's maybe one way to go about it. I feel like the USFL rules are a little bit more traditional in the sense that you still have the PAT, you kind of still have the same kickoff format, but they've kind of innovated it in a way that's consistent with what the NFL does, but allows for maybe a little bit more safety or a little bit more creativity, like with the PAT. So I think if you're trying to get guys NFL quality tape, then I do think the USFL rules maybe fit a little bit better because, like, again, the 2 foot and bounds rule, PATs, a kickoff structure that's a little bit more similar to what the NFL currently does. I think there's maybe something to be said about that. Again, if you wanted to do something maybe more innovative, creative, catch people's eye, cause coaches to think outside the box, then I could see an argument for more of some of the XFL ways of structuring things. Again, I think for me personally, out of all the things that are changing and happening with this merger, that's probably kind of the least of my concerns. There's not really any hills that I would die on. I guess if I had to pick one, I'm probably with Jake. Like, I would like to see us not completely get rid of the PAT. I think I like having the option to go for 2 or 3. I think that's an interesting wrinkle, but to just completely take kickers out of the game in a capacity in which they're only involved in, a certain number of capacities as it is. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm just, because I'm a Stallions fan and I'm seeing the success that Brandon Aubrey is having in the NFL now, like, it's hard for me to think back on his past 2 seasons and imagine him getting 60 less, PAT attempts than what he had in his 2 years in the USFL. So I think for the sake of kickers, I wouldn't love that if we totally remove that. But otherwise, I mean, I think I can I see arguments to both sides. And again, that's just not probably the hill I'll die on.
Right on. Ducky. You always have an opinion on something, so I expect you to have an opinion here. What are the rules, or are you impartial?
Not impartial. Whatever the USFL says is probably the best thing. If I had to guess.
And I don't know if you saw, I pinned it up on the screen. We have our boy XFL Jim, also known as USFL Jim, CFL Jim, and I assume the Jimiverse will include UFL Jim. And he says, I love that me and Ducky can hate each other in the same league now. And I have a feeling that you love that as well. But I need some confirmation here.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, good. Drawn out there. James, now I guess we'll get to you. Living and dying. What do we got on the rules here?
Yeah, I'm glad everybody else got to get their thoughts out first, just because I agree with pretty much everything that everybody said. So, I think the point of these leagues has to be to try to help these guys get to the NFL, right? I mean, especially if you want to have some sort of partnership with the NFL down the road. So, like the 1 foot rule, I'm not a huge fan of that in the XFL. That's college. It's got to be 2 feet. I also, to kind of touch on the specialist thing, one, I completely agree. Although I do think the XFL's PATs are neat, and it gives a chance for like a team to score an extra touchdown with a 1-point conversion. But I think we need to let the kickers kick because, like Luke said, especially in the USFL, not only Brandon Aubrey, but just across the board, there's so many talented specialists in the USFL. Guys like Luis Aguilar, guys like Matthew Coughlin, on all these guys who are just absolutely incredible. They need to get opportunities. And another thing is punting. In the XFL, they had some really interesting punting rules where, if you kicked it out of bounds or if you kicked it into the end zone in certain spots, it'll come out to the 35 and really making it difficult for punters to get good film. So I'm hoping we see the rules closer to the USFL on that side of things because, guys like Brock Miller, guys like Matt Mangle, guys like Matt White, these guys have been absolutely phenomenal. Colby Wadman in Birmingham. And these guys, they really need the opportunity to show themselves and get game film. So I would hope that, especially from a special teams perspective, we see rules closer to the USFL because we saw some of the XFL guys this year. We saw a guy like Daniel Wellen. He went to the NFL from the DC Defenders. But we saw a couple comments from guys like Marquette King and some others who were like, man, some of these rules make it really tough for us punters in the XFL.
Right on. So, one thing, I guess this isn't really a rule, but I'm going to pull this comment up on the screen from Michael. Hope they keep the drone cameras. I thought they were cool. Also, the helmet cameras. I personally am a fan of the drone cameras. I know some not so much. I think they got better at the way they started utilizing them out in the game. I guess just by a raise of hand, and Lane, you could just use your voice. Maybe we'll need to get you an updated picture with like a raised pickle or something. Is there anybody here that wants to see the drones gone? Oh, you did it. Why, James? Tell me why.
Because purely and it was too many times. And, it might be different because we're going to have 8 teams in 8 markets. So we're going to have crowd noise. But, man, like there was more. Here's the thing. Like, I personally didn't mind them. But if you look at the general reception, especially on social media, you saw so many people talking about the drones. And almost every single one of them was like, what in the heck are they doing out there with this noise? It sounds like a bug on my screen. So, like, again, I think it's really cool. I think it's a great innovation. But they got to find a way to cut out that noise. And if they can't, then they've got to get rid of it just because it does not sound good on TV.
Yeah, I mean, that was the big argument that I've heard was the noise. I mean, it was super fun seeing them in person. I'll never forget that first USFL game, Birmingham, New Jersey, season 1, and watching these drones like just swoop down from the top of Protective Stadium, like just a couple feet over your head. And there was a couple that fell out of the sky. I think we saw it during some of the games where,
I mean, we saw a couple months ago, we saw The Rock, we saw Danny Garcia, we saw Eric Shanks and all those guys meeting with the Department of Defense. Maybe they're hooking them up with some of those, quiet, no sound government drones. Maybe we'll get some good action there next season. Who knows?
We will have to wait and find out, but I'm looking forward to that. So let me pull up another comment here that I think could be an interesting discussion. So Julian, the rivalries that'll happen, Memphis, Birmingham, St. Louis, Memphis, Birmingham, Houston, so on and so forth. We got to talk about new rivalries here, guys, because now that we're losing half the teams, we're essentially gaining 4 new teams to hate. Whatever side you're looking at, you're going to hate the other 4 and probably going to have maybe 1 or 2 that you pick on. Now, me personally, I'll start things out. Houston, I don't know. I'll probably have to say Arlington. San Antonio has the Riverwalk. Arlington, other than Jerry World, there's not much there. Sorry, guys. I said it. Get over it. But, it doesn't really matter who our rivalry is because we already know what the record's going to be. 12-0, all in. Gamblers are winning that championship at minimum. But Luke, what as a Stallions fan, who is your rival now? Are you going to, because little brother's gone, potentially. You're muted. I can unmute you. Nope. Mute. No,
Hey,
Luke.
Sorry. That was a total boomer move. Sorry.
No,
You're
it's all
right.
good.
I was also just so passionate about answering this question. I just started popping off before even just checking if I was unmuted. As I was saying, yeah, little brother is gone. That is correct. RIP New Orleans. It was fun. It was fun beating you a lot of times. But I thought it would maybe be a while, like a few months or something, or maybe like halfway into the season until we kind of figured out like who's our new arch nemesis. And then like Anthony Beck just comes out of left field and he's like, hey guys, like I volunteer as tribute. And so I personally despise the Battle Pigeons. They are, I'll admit they have a decent fan base, not quite as good as Birmingham's. In quantity, they might have us, but in quality, they don't. However, the crybaby Beck is just, when he came out of left field and was like, I can't believe you're stealing my players. This really hurts my feelings. Let's just say Daddy Skip is going to have his way with him. And it's going to be tough for the Battle Pigeons. And I don't know why you would bring that on yourself. Like, why do you want to make an enemy with the best team in spring football? It doesn't make sense. But they volunteered their new little brother. It made our lives easier. We didn't have to go find somebody. They stepped in. And, that's fine. I hate them now. So here we are.
This is why I love staying unbiased, because I just get to see all the bias from all the fans. It's hilarious.
What did I say that was biased?
Ducky. So, you may not have a team, but I have a good feeling who your rival might be as a whole. I don't know. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll find out. Who's your rivalry? What's the one? Do you have a rivalry you're looking forward to as far as new one, but your personal rival as well? I'm just curious, league wise.
Don't have a rival, but what I can say is that the Stallions have 0 UFL championships. 0.
Wow, that's that kind of deep analysis we brought you on here for. 0
UFL championships.
So I thought you were going to say, and just to no curtains, I thought you were going to say your rival was all the XFL teams.
It is.
There you go. Okay. But
everybody already knew that answer.
Yeah. I'm curious though, of the USFL and XFL teams, is there a rivalry you're looking forward to the most? Like a Stallions and Battlehawks, or DC and Memphis, maybe? I don't know.
I'd say Stallions and Battlehawks. It's probably going to be the best one.
I know it's not going to be much of a rivalry when it comes to the Houston Gamblers. So I get why you wouldn't pick them, because is it a rivalry when you win every game? No, not really. It's like,
I feel like a lot of Breakers fans used to ask themselves that too.
Well, let's move on. Jake, what rivalry are you looking forward to? Who do you think the Michigan Panthers are going to get beat up by or beat up on?
Everyone.
Beat up on him. I don't know. Well, Luke tried to steal mine. Battle
Sorry.
Pigeons. What the hell's that? Sword with wings. Sword with wings. Sword with
Sorry.
wings. Like, but no, I think part of it is being Defenders fan now, just like completely, ditching them, but still holding onto that hatred of the Sword with Wings. Like, I really wanted, Seattle or St. Louis to be that rival because, I think they're now the closest team that we still have as far as geography. But I don't know, like maybe DC, St. Louis, but I think it probably will be because of Becht and all that. It probably will be, Sword with Wings and Stallions. So I don't know, maybe DC will have to pick on us and vice versa.
Right
I do
on.
feel like
Which would be terrible for me because like I still have a place in my heart for the Defenders. I mean, I've spent enough money on the Defenders gear. I can't just completely ditch them, but maybe I have to. Maybe that'll be my draw that I'll have to hate the team that I used to love.
I do feel like the Battle Hawks or Battle Pigeons or Sword with Wings or whatever we want to call them are uniquely positioned to be hated by everyone because they do have like the Midwest thing going on with Michigan, right? They're like the two Midwest teams. And then they're actually St. Louis and Memphis are actually geographically like quite close together. They're just up the river from Mississippi River from Memphis. So like I could see there being some bad blood there. And then you've got the whole Stallions Battle Pigeons thing going on now. So like I don't know, the gamblers, you got to find some way to like hate the Battle Hawks too. But we're all just going to be like I think turning on them at this point.
I mean,
They're also the loudest fan base. Like that just makes it easy to hate too. Just like Bama.
They just
Exactly.
like scream people all the time, and it's just like why?
Yeah,
Like if you're going to say something repeatedly, at least make it giddy up.
we're all in. We're all in.
They got to at least make the playoffs if they're going to talk.
Well, that too.
I mean, that's a stinger. Speaking of which, that is one of the options in our best and worst of USFL and XFL 2023 fan poll, which I know Zachy Boy is not here this week, but join us next week, next Friday. We're dropping all the results. So make sure you head to pfnewsroom.com/vote and let your voices be heard before we start recording, because I know Battlehawks fans aren't happy about not making the playoffs with the record that they had, considering the Arlington Renegades went in with a losing record and won the championship. Before we move from rivalries, Laney Boy, tell me, what's the rivalry you're looking forward to the most?
It's definitely going to be Battlehawks Stallions. I think that's going to be crazy. Two of these just giant fan bases that never shut their mouth. It's just about how good they are. It's going to be awesome. But at the exact same time, I think this is, while the most confusing era of spring football we've had for a while, I think it's going to be the most exciting. I'm really, really, really excited to see XFL versus USFL so much. Like, it's going to be, I really think if they could get this to go and we can get this together, it's going to be one of the most interesting spring football seasons we've ever seen. I mean, everybody in their market, we're going to have just all this talk over the past since 2020 of who's better, who would dominate who. It's going to be great. And I can't wait to see just the amount of cope and the amount of excuses we see from everyone when their team either fails or let's say the Stallions do run everybody over. That would be great. But the Battlehawks do, that would be even funnier. I just can't wait. This season's going to be so awesome.
They won't, because they're an XFL team.
Very true. I can't say that.
I know. Well, I do love the idea of that kind of built-in rivalry. But James, cap it up with you. What are your thoughts here? Best rivalry? What are you looking forward to? I know you don't have to pick a team.
So before I answer that question, I have to give a shout out to somebody that's currently in our comment section right now. Mr. Bobby Scott, who played for the New Jersey Generals back in 1983, is in our comments right now watching our live stream. Bobby, hope you're doing well. Just wanted to give you a shout out. He spent 10 years with the New Orleans Saints, also played with the Chicago Blitz. So very happy to have you here. And of course, a Generals legend here in the chat. That's pretty awesome to see. So anyways, to answer your question here with rivalries, I do think that a rivalry that was kind of underrated in this past XFL season was St. Louis and DC, because even though DC won twice, and I know Jake's not going to like this because he's going to be like, the DC Defenders wiped them twice. They were very close games. They were competitive games that went down to the wire. I think those are two fan bases that really, especially if you looked at some of the stuff that was going on social media, like the DC Defenders, they wanted to play St. Louis in the playoffs, and St. Louis wanted to play DC. Like they really wanted to play each other. Of course, there was the whole 7-3 debacle with Seattle where Seattle got in, but I think it'll be really fun to watch those two teams play again. And on the USFL side, I mean, we're going to have some teams where like, I think Memphis and Birmingham will be a pretty fun one to watch. You know, they'll be in the same division. So I think what's going to be really interesting to watch unfold is the fact that we have, not only do we have the USFL rivalries coming over, but now we have new USFL interleague XFL rivalries. Everything's going to be of rivalry at this point. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. I mean, that to me, I cannot wait to see when the Battlehawks come play in Protective and the Stallions go play in the Dome, because I expect people to show up with signs and banners and all sorts of things. Now, DC, I do hope whoever the rival is, keep the lemons. I think the lemons, I know some people think it's a bad look to throw lemons on the field. And yes, you're right.
Lemon party all day.
But I mean, it's too funny. I mean,
What did he say?
It's not glass. If it was glass, I'd say, no, don't do that.
You heard me.
A
Look it up.
lemon, sign them up. Yeah.
Don't look that up.
They got a
I
whole
think
nobody will look
website
that up.
for it.
I think they need to like have a section like the beer snake section and like call themselves the lemon heads, like the old candy, and like maybe get some people with like some lemon, like, you know, foam head costume things. Like that would be sick.
You could put, and maybe even put like one of the, like a net there. So it kind of like catches them all into one area, you know?
Yeah. Like the field goal net, but like in reverse.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. So we're going to talk about the championship, but before we do that, we got a super chat here from Sir Random Guy. Sign you up. Thank you, sir. Also, can the Battlehawks even make the playoffs in their division? So we touched on that a little bit earlier. You know, they had a winning record. They didn't get in. They had one hell of a couple games going into the playoffs that, I mean, they showed that they could make it happen. I don't know. Does anyone think the Battlehawks are not playoff ready here?
Well, the interesting thing to note here is that, you know, going off this 8-team scenario, Seattle's out. And instead, you know, coming in, we have two Southern teams that, yes, did Arlington win the championship? They did. But they were 4-6, okay? If they were in the North Division, they would not have made the playoffs. They wouldn't have sniffed them. So if the Battlehawks play the way that they did this past year and finish with a 6-4, 7-3 record, they should definitely be getting in, you'd think.
Mm-hmm. So, Luke, I saw you had your hand raised, and I'm very curious as to your answer here.
Well, like, the thing is, the Battle Pigeons are an extremely just mid team, and you can't be mid and make the playoffs. I mean, you kind of can in the old world where you could go 4-6 and make it in, but that world is done. And so now they're going to have to get past Arlington and DC in the regular season to make it into playoffs. And Arlington with a full season with the GOAT, well, the second GOAT. The true GOAT is Alex Magoo, but in a past world known as the AAF, the GOAT was this man named Luis Perez, and he lives on in Arlington. And so as long as DC and Arlington are around, St. Louis, in addition to getting clapped by the Stallions, they're probably not even going to make the playoffs, which is, it's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow for all the fans that they've got. You would wish with such a huge fan base, they'd actually get a better team, but you know, it doesn't always work out that way. So,
well, I mean, you bring up a good point. At best, they can only have an 8-2 record because they're losing to the Stallions once, they're losing to the Gamblers once. So at best, they can get an 8-2, and then in the division, if the DC Defenders split them and the Renegades split them, I think things are looking. You know, you bring up some very valid points here. Anybody have any other thoughts on the Stallions' capability? I don't know what is going on in this Christmas spectacular. Oh man, we're getting coal from the Battlehawks Santa Claus this year. I hope A-Train and Dirty from the X-Fan show aren't watching because they're not happy. I'll tell you that.
You're basically guaranteeing that any Battlehawks fan is never going to watch the show again.
Good.
Well, you know what? That's just a sign. If you're a diehard Battlehawks fan, here's what you have to do. Head over to pfnewsroom.com and go hit join. And come help us cover this thing. Join the crew, join the newsroom crew. Because here's my thoughts, right? So we have the playoffs, which I think will probably adopt what both leagues did last year, where we'll see it in the home city. The championship. Now, are we going to see what the XFL did and bring it to a home location? Are we going to see that beautiful Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium still in play? And I hope so. I'm very sad to see Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium not being utilized in this season. Now, you can make your argument, well, they didn't have a local team. I think that was fixable. You give them a local team because it was the perfect size. It is, I mean, the field of all of them is so well maintained. Ducky's thinking dirty thoughts over here, I have a feeling. But I'll say this, if they don't go, well, let me start out. What has everyone thought? Should they go to a home location? Should they go to Canton? Ducky, I'll let you start.
Oh, Canton, most definitely. You can't not have a spring football team in that stadium. That stadium, it's the pinnacle of spring football.
I love it.
Perfect size, perfect facilities. I'm gonna cry.
How about you, Lane? Again, you have nothing, no stake in it here. What are your thoughts on the championship game? Do you think they should keep it at Canton or move it to a home city?
Well, this is one that I've given a lot of thought to, but I would definitely have to stick with Canton for the simple fact of it's everything football. It's a place that if you have been a long-term football fan for your entire life, you want to go there at some point. Why not go there? I mean, it's beautiful. All the games played there. It looks nice. It looks great on TV. TV. My voice is cracked. I'm cooked. It's just, I really don't think that it's going to look great on TV. It's going to be sold out, or maybe not sold out, but I like everything about Canton. I want Canton. It's just everything for football. It's all there.
How about you, Jake? What do you think the game should be in Canton, or should they move it to one of the host cities?
I mean, as much as I hate the state, Canton is kind of, you can carve that out. That's like it's a football mecca. I think it gets a pass for being in Ohio. Keep it in Canton. Like I said, Tom Ben's fantastic stadium, fantastic atmosphere, perfect for spring football. So keep it in Canton.
Mr. Larsen, thoughts?
Here's the thing is they have a lot of options, in my opinion. Where Canton, like Ducky and like Jake said, like Lane said, and it's such an awesome stadium. I was there myself, a few times over the past couple seasons, and just talking to Pittsburgh Maulers players, talking to New Jersey Generals players and staff and coaches, everybody loved the environment there. So it is perfect for spring football. But at the same time, now that you're merged, now that you have the opportunity, you can play the championship in the Alamo Dome, or you could go to St. Louis. And do you want to have a dome where you don't have to worry about weather, you don't have to worry about things like that? So I think the good thing for them is that they do have options where if they don't utilize Canton, now you can go to San Antonio, or you could go to St. Louis, and you don't got to worry. Because, I mean, even this past championship in the USFL, it started to drizzle a little bit. Nothing crazy. It wasn't bad. But, you do have that factor of potential summer rainstorm coming in and messing things up.
Mm-hmm. Luke, we'll wrap it up with you. Thoughts?
I think I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I mean, I definitely would not be upset. I would not be upset if they kept it in Canton. I was at the Canton for the championship. I agree with everything that's been said in terms of it being obviously a football mecca, incredible stadium venue, all that kind of good stuff. But to play devil's advocate, I do think, as a Stallions fan, we make the championship every year, right? So, when you think about it that way,
knew that was coming.
The drive to Ohio it's a decent drive, right? Or you can fly, and it's worth it. But not everybody can just pick up and do that. And so the thought of maybe having the championship at Protective Stadium once, or having the championship in a newly renovated $250 million renovation to Liberty Bank Stadium in Memphis, which is going to be super state of the art once that is done, that could be really nice, right? Or Ford Field is farther away than Canton from Birmingham, but I went to a game there when Birmingham played up there this past year. And I mean, it's an incredible NFL stadium. I think it looks great on TV with the way that they're able to kind of focus on the lower sort of part of the stadium. I mean, obviously the St. Louis thing, like St. Louis will probably never make the championship, but even if they didn't, like I feel like their fans might turn out for a championship game in their city. So like, the vibes would probably be pretty good. So I don't know. I feel like considering that the USFL exclusively really had the Canton connection, and the USFL is obviously, it's no longer just about the USFL, right? It's this new merged entity with these kind of dual histories that they're bringing together. Again, I would not be upset if it continued to be in Canton, but I certainly see some merit to letting some of these other locations and cities and stadiums be kind of highlighted by getting to host the championship game, once every so many years.
Yeah, and I'll echo what both you and James said. If they don't do it in Canton, I really like the idea of having a few domes at the disposal, right? We had Ford Field, we have the Alamo Dome, and we have the Dome at America's Center. And I agree with you, Luke. I think the Battlehawks fans would show up for a championship game, even if their team wasn't there. And I mean, if their team was there, whew, I mean, that place is going to be rocking. Now, I know you don't think it can happen, but maybe it can. We don't know what the XFL division is going to look like just yet. Things could change. We don't know. Like Jordan Taiamu, is he going to be back with the Defenders? Is he going to be on another team? Will he land back in St. Louis? I don't know. We'll have to see these teams. And that's the kind of the beauty of spring football. I mean, other than the Stallions, I'll give you that. Generally, from year to year, a lot can change. Look at your Maulers. I mean, you went from worst to first in the North Division, went to the championship game. The Houston Gamblers, we learned how to play in the final minute of a fourth quarter, and we got screwed, but it is what it is. It is what it is. There's a fluke every now and then. But we have another super random guy, another super chat, sign you up. The USFL was able to make a staple at Canton based on Google Maps, so I would not mind Canton because it is the ultimate neutral field, which I think there is a little bit to that as well. I guess we're probably rounding out near the end of this, so I'm gonna ask one final question, and we'll see where the discussion leads us. What do you guys think that this new league has to do to be sustainable? What does this league have to do to where next year, when we're doing the 2024 Christmas Spectacular, ramping up for the 2024 best and worst of the UFL, what are the things that they have to do and what are the mistakes that they have to avoid to hopefully ride this out? And so we're still talking about it 5 years from now. Jake, I'll start with you. I feel like you always end up in the middle of the pack or the end of the pack, so I'm going to let you kick it off here.
They got to do better getting the fans involved in this. Give us information, keep us engaged. Social media has got to be better for the USFL side. There needs to be more community outreach from the XFL side. I think that we need to see more events. Both leagues say that they are for the fans. I haven't seen it to the extent that I'd like to see it. And, looking at both the leagues' numbers the last, this past year, the fact that they have to merge to save themselves. Yeah. You gotta get us involved. Like spring football has always had a terrible, outlook, constantly failing. Got to do something to really engage the fans if we're gonna see a year 2 or 3 and beyond.
Lane, what are your thoughts here?
I would love to see, for the first USL season, we had United by Football, and I really liked that. It was a great in-depth view into just everything to do. I would like to see something like that come back. The XFL had their Player 54 thing, which I thought was actually very informative and nice. I would prefer to see something like that come back, just to, I guess, for a casual viewer, somebody that's just trying to get into spring football. That's a really nice, just, I guess, way to open the door for you. And then just avoiding any sort of early drama. We saw the Vipers field and then the USFL having issues with weather to begin their seasons, and then games getting delayed and pushed back. Anything that could potentially be avoided. And that's why I really like James talking about the domes and stuff earlier when it came to the stadiums. Anything to avoid, because it's so easy, especially in spring football, to get that negative reputation to start the season that just gets hard to shake. A strong, good first few weeks would be perfect for this new league, with something to hype it up, like United by Football or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How about you, Ducky? What do you think? What are the mistakes they need to avoid? What are the things they need to do? What do you got for us?
They could start by being more transparent with their fans and stuff like that, because I'm sure a lot of people right now are probably thinking that they're in the dark. They don't know what's going on. And this is the merger, not really long term, just for now. But they could really start with that by letting people know anything, really.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right.
Luke, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think some good things have been said. I think the thing that I would add is I want to see more cross promotion. I mean, I think ultimately at the end of the day, what's going to make this sustainable, what's going to keep this alive is eyeballs on screens, right? If nobody's watching, they're going to give up. If people are watching and the audience is growing, and that means more advertising revenue, and more revenue means more potential for profitability, and that's what's going to justify this thing sticking around. But at the end of the day, right, like the number of people like us who really love this stuff and are really passionate about it, it's not the average person, right? The average person loves the NFL or college football or whatever the case may be, and they might be open to spring football, but it's not really on their radar, and it's not going to be on their radar if it's not sort of marketed to them, right? You can't just assume that people are just going to just go out there and just start craving spring football when they don't have the appetite. So I think, ESPN, ABC, Fox, if they're going to work together on this, right, then they need to make whatever this new league is called, UFL, whatever, not an afterthought, right? We shouldn't just like get a 5-minute segment about it on SportsCenter, right? Or a 2-minute segment on First Things First on FS1 or whatever, right? Like on their, talk shows, on their radio shows, on their advertising during other sporting events, during the NFL season or future college seasons. Like, you have to put this in front of people, make it compelling, highlight the stars. Like, it's an incredible product. And I think if you get people's eyes on it, it can stick around and people can really get hooked. Like, I know people that's been true of. But if you don't market it, if you don't promote it, like, I don't think you can just, it's not a thing where I think you can just kind of assume, well, if we build it, they'll come. I don't know that with the history in the past of the way spring football has gone, I just don't know that you can make that assumption. So I'd really love to see ESPN and Fox come together and think about how can we aggressively market this on TV using the shows and the content that we already have to really try and bring in the average sort of casual viewer, because I think that's the only hope for this thing to be able to stick.
Right on. So we'll wrap it up here with you, James. Thoughts?
Yeah, Luke hit exactly what I was going to say, which is marketing. And we've seen, the USFL did what they could. I feel like they were in an interesting position because obviously they didn't have all 8 teams and 8 markets. But even then, there's so much more that I feel like they could have done on their marketing side of things. And then on the XFL side of things, we saw some really mediocre attendance in a lot of these stadiums, like Seattle. They're getting like 10, 11,000 at some of these games. And that was a city that was getting 30,000 or close to it back in the XFL in 2020. And then a place like Orlando. The Alliance of American Football, they had not that great marketing, and they were getting really good turnouts there in Orlando. And then this year with the Guardians, I know the team was pretty bad, but still, like, they were getting 6,000, 7,000 at those games. Vegas was getting 6,000 at those games. So if we're gonna be in these markets, right, if we're gonna spend the money of, all right, we want butts in the seats, so we're getting all these teams in all 8 markets, you have to do the marketing part. You have to be marketing. You have to put money into it, right? I mean, you can't be profitable if you don't put some money into it. Don't put some investments into it. That's my take on it. They have to go all in on marketing.
I agree. That was going to be the big item that I brought up, and I think everybody kind of touched on it a little bit. But I'll tell you this: one thing that I felt made the 2020 version of the XFL so successful was the amount of fan engagement events that they were holding in the year plus, really, leading up to kickoff. I mean, it was monthly, sometimes more than once a month, that there was something going on in Houston, whether it was Coach June Jones or a couple of the players like PJ Walker making his debut, or even some of the assistants just giving a play, having all the fans meet to show, hey, look, this thing's legitimate. We're going to be around. We're a real thing. We might not be on the field yet, but we're a real thing. Look, here's our jersey. Here's our logo. Here's our coach. Here's our player. And hey, by the way, here's some free dinner. Because I'll tell you, there's a few things in life that'll win some people over, but free food is one of those things. Free food is one of those things, unless it's, as McCraft mentioned here, chicken salad. And I think, Jake, you may have brought it up. Maybe it was Lane. Somebody had brought it up, is, avoiding those, the little things, that anything that you can avoid as being a problem in this new league, try to avoid it. Because case in point with the chicken salad thing, it's 2 years later. The coach isn't even in the league anymore. The team isn't even around potentially. And we still have chicken salad jokes. So I would agree. You kind of have to watch everything you're doing, because the crazies like us, everybody that's here, is going to take note of it. And I mean, the negative crazies are going to use that as a reason to trash the product, whether it really matters or not. And I'm not going to get into the chicken salad thing or the pizza thing or whatever it may be. All I'll say is this, and we'll kind of wrap us up with thoughts here. I just want this to survive because I love spring football. Am I happy about 8 teams? Not particularly, but it is a little bit interesting for me because I covered the original XFL. I covered the spring league when that popped up to become a development league for the XFL. The XFL went away. The spring league popped up. James, that's around the time that you joined the site. Spring league had a couple seasons. Although they're not directly connected, I would say it was the USFL is a spiritual successor of the spring league. And now we're seeing the XFL, which used to use the spring league as a development league, come together and to make one big, beautiful league, one BBL. I guess final thoughts, anything you want to say to the people out there before we head off, thoughts on the new season, thoughts on the previous season, and just your hopes, and we'll go around the table. James, we'll have you kick it off here.
Yeah, first and foremost, something that's kind of been on my mind is that we've seen a lot of fans kind of bantering about like, oh, this team made it, this team didn't, like, oh, haha, breakers are gone or this or that. It's like, we do got to realize at the end of the day, people's livelihoods are at stake. People's careers are at stake, whether it's a player, whether it's just a random staff member, whether it's a coach. So I think we got to be mindful of how we're carrying ourselves on the internet. Even if you're a burner account, it's like, it's not, at least in my opinion, it's like we shouldn't be joking about people losing their jobs. I think this is something that we really need to come behind these players right now and support them as much as we can and do whatever we can to try to help them get another opportunity. But all in all, I'm excited for this upcoming season simply because I think, we have the firepower now of not just Fox, but we have ABC, we have Disney, we have The Rock, we have Danny Garcia, we have all these people coming over from the XFL side. Hopefully, if this doesn't work, spring football is not going to work. That's basically is how it's going to go. So let's hope that, like you said, this big, beautiful league comes together and, really gets this thing going. And 5, 10, 15 years down the road, we're still talking about this United Football League.
100%. Lane, final thoughts.
All right. Final thoughts. My final take on this matter. At the end of the day, if you want to be a spring football fan, just like James said, I mean, it needs to work this time. We need to get it to work. Otherwise, we're not going to see anybody just continually putting attempts after attempt after attempt. Just watch it, support it, be an active fan in the community. Like, just let everybody hear you and just make sure you watch the games and it's so much more interactive because it is a smaller league. You can get to know these players. You can get to know them personally. It's such a unique experience for a fan to be able to interact with all of these communities so much. Just give it your full support. It doesn't matter if you're an XFL homer, a USFL homer, just give it a real shot, watch the games, and support spring football so we can just have this going forward.
Jake, final thoughts.
Yeah, a lot of what the last two have said. This is the last go round. Like if they can't make this work, then I think this is the last time we're going to see spring football for a hot minute. Like if you can't have $2 billion companies coming together, slashing teams from 16 to 8 and get it to work, then I don't know what you're going to be able to do. But yeah, just going to support it, going to love it while it's here. Hopefully it's, here for, for a while, and I'm going to love it still. And, I'm going to be covering it. I'm going to be shouting for the mountaintops, going to do whatever I can to, to get the word out there. And of course, deep down at the end of the day, I'm a fan, so I'm going to enjoy the hell out of it.
Sign you up. Luke, what do you got for us?
I got 3 things, okay? First of all, Alex Magoo, if you're out there and you're watching this, I love you. Number 2, Anthony Beck, if you're out there and you're watching this, I hate you. And number 3, in all seriousness, what these guys said. I mean, I think the way this merger has gone down I'm not necessarily a glass half full guy, so it's been hard to stay positive, but I think the way this has gone down, the reality that's been impressed upon me, which I don't like to always acknowledge, but I think it's obviously true from the history, but prior to these leagues and then the state these leagues are in, is it's really hard to run a spring football league, a non-NFL professional football league. And, even just, it feels like at least the slightest mistake, misjudgment, whatever can be the downfall of the league, can be sort of a detriment to it surviving. And so, as these guys have pointed out, I mean, this is kind of probably the last hurrah for quite a while if this doesn't work. And so, I love the Stallions. Obviously, I love what they've meant to the city of Birmingham. And, all jokes aside, I know obviously the Battlehawks, it's a similar situation in St. Louis. Obviously the Lions have kind of turned around this year, but I mean, in past years, Detroit, obviously, I'm a Vikings fan and a Minnesota sports fan. So like I sympathize with Detroit, even though they're a sort of rival of ours. Like the professional sports history in a city like that is painful. So to have something different, to have something new, to have a little bit of hope. I know, these teams actually do mean a lot to the people in the cities. And maybe they don't mean as much on the national stage as an NFL team or something like that. But I know personally from experience how much the Stallions have brought people together in the city of Birmingham. And I've been able to make connections through this league, not only with, players and coaches, but just with other people in my city and community. And that's a really special thing. I think that's what this is really about in a lot of ways. So, it's hard to feel a lot of hope right now, but I think, even if you're not the type who's predisposed to having a lot of hope like me, I think we'll have to kind of grin and bear it as much as we can, because this is all we got. So let's hope and pray that we get a successful season and then seasons to come after that.
Right on. Ducky, final thoughts.
USFL on top.
There you go.
Best conference ever.
Sign you up. And I mean, just to boil things down, I agree with everybody here. I mean, is it the best situation to be in? No, obviously not. We would love to have more teams. Am I going to watch this league? Am I going to support this league? Am I going to do a podcast about this league and be loud and ridiculous and wear a vinyl ref shirt every week? Hell flipping. Yeah, I am. I can't wait for Spring Stock 3. It's going to be bigger and better than ever before. Hopefully everybody here that's on this panel has a chance to stop by. Lane, we'll have to figure out how to we'll have to get like a big cardboard cutout of the Pickle McRib to bring you up on the stage, but we will get that sorted. But my plea to everybody watching this show, and my plea to everybody that is go and tell everybody you can about spring football. Go let them know that the UFL is going to be here next year. Go let them know that that we need to support this thing. So from this year and many years forward, we have a league to watch. Because I'll tell you this, I don't know what I'd do if I didn't have spring football in my life, and I'm not ready to find out. But I think that's all I got for you. If you haven't already, head over to pfnewsroom.com/vote. Make sure you vote in the best and worst of the USFL and XFL 2023 fan poll next Friday. What is that? The 29th. Zachy Boy and I will be revealing all the results over here at the USFL podcast. But I think that's it for everybody. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, and sign you up.
I'm saying